This is Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, an in-depth interview with Alabama's top political newsmakers. Now, from the studios of Troy University, here is Steve Flowers.
I'm Steve Flowers, and welcome to Alabama Politics. Folks, I'm glad to have as my guest tonight one of my good young friends named Chen. I got to know Derek a couple of years ago when I was out doing a book signing all over the state. My book, Goats and Governors, 6 Decades of Colorful Political Stories, and met the most gregarious young man in a book signing at Cumberland School of Law in Birmingham at Sanford University, good Baptist school, and and he was a big Republican. I had a conservative Republican group there at Cumberland Law School, and they had a big, nice thing for me. It was a good event, wasn't it, Derek?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be able to do the show with you.
Well, Derek's a good young man. He's got a lot of integrity, and I've never seen anybody 26 years old who has made himself at home in Alabama like he has. He hails from California originally, but he's settled in and went to law school here at Alabama. He's fell in love with Alabama, and they fall in love with him. Tell everybody about joining. Let's start with your childhood, where you grew up in California and everything.
Yeah, so thank you, Steve. I am an Alabamian by choice. I was actually born in Southern California, in a town called Fountain Valley, in Southern California, and
that's a suburb of Los Angeles.
Yes, south of Los Angeles, and went to high school there. I knew I wanted to go to a Christian school, so I actually moved to Michigan to go to college at Hope College. And
it's a Christian college in Michigan.
It's a Christian college affiliated with the Reformed Church.
Now, what'd you major in?
And I majored in political science, and I was a history minor, was active in the College Republicans up there, was chairman of the College Republicans, and I worked for our local state Republican state legislator.
And what town was that close to in Michigan?
It was in Holland, Michigan. It's right on the lake. It's halfway in between Grand Rapids it's halfway in between Detroit and Chicago. It's close to Grand Rapids. So it was in West Michigan. And you know, Steve, when it was time to go to college or go to law school after college, I was talking to the president of Hope College at the time, Dr. Knapp, who...
How big is Hope College, before you get into that? How many students go there?
Approximately 3,500.
Okay, so it's a good private school.
Yes.
Christian private school. So you're talking to the president. I'm sorry to interrupt you. You're talking to the president then.
Yeah, I was talking to Dr. Knapp, who was the president of Hope College at the time, and I told him that I wanted to go to law school, and he asked me if I had ever considered law school down in Birmingham at Sanford University, who he used to be a professor at. So I ended up coming down for a campus visit in Birmingham, and I just absolutely fell in love with the campus, fell in love with Birmingham, and I knew I wanted to go to a Christian law school as well, so I ended up, I only applied to Cumberland for my legal studies.
Now, so as soon as you saw the campus, you fell in love with it, didn't you?
Absolutely, and just going around the environment, you know, you can't beat the quality of life here in Birmingham, and I just absolutely loved the environment and everything about it.
Derek, how many students are in each class at Cumberland now, ballpark?
So I would say probably around 150 for the incoming class, and it's 3 years, so 150 for each year.
Do y'all what percentage of the 150 class would be in state, and how many would be out of state? 2/3 out of state, you think?
I'm not sure the
ballpark
exact number, but I think I would say the vast majority of my classmates were from Alabama or the surrounding southeastern states. There were a few from other states up north, but the vast majority were from the southeast.
When growing up in California, in high school there, were you always a conservative, like you always had conservative Christian values in high school?
I always was conservative ever since I was a little boy. I was born in 1997, and I remember, I was told by my mom that they were watching the presidential debate in 2000 between Bush versus Gore, and a little 3-year-old me pointed to the TV screen at Bush and said, "I like him." So I've always been a Republican since I was 3 years old.
Did they vote for him, you think?
I don't know.
Did you ask them?
I didn't. I never asked them.
You don't remember doing that. They did, though.
Yeah, but I just always was a Republican ever since I was a kid.
3 years old.
Yeah.
Were you always real conservative as far as everything?
Yeah, so I've always been really conservative. I think it's so important to have strong, effective conservatives in all levels of government, but especially here at home in the state of Alabama, because the founding fathers, when they set up our constitutional republic and our form of government, they intended for the states to take lead on setting public policy for the citizens. And it's so important to have strong, effective conservatives here at home in the state of Alabama, because that's the government that affects us the most here at home.
You're right about that. Now, when you finish high school, were most of your classmates the perception is that folks in California are more liberal than we are in the South. And so were you like a sore thumb with most of your classmates, or were they just kind of apolitical? They really weren't political one way or the other.
They were fairly apolitical, but you got to remember, Steve, Orange County historically has been a really
You're in Orange County,
big Republican county historically. In California, there are a lot of conservatives, but we're just outnumbered.
That's what it is. So the Orange County votes Republican, doesn't it?
Historically,
so where you grew up is conservative.
Yeah.
But most of your classmates were not really, they weren't politically active.
Not really.
Were you politically active and you get involved in presidential campaigns or anything like that in high school?
I really started in college when I was the chairman of the College Republicans. I joined the College Republicans Club, and I just wanted to stay active in campaigns. I've always had a passion for politics. Not sure where I got it from, but I've always had a passion for politics, but more importantly, public policy, because I think it's so important to have good public policy. And there's a difference.
Explain that to our viewers when you say that, when you talk about public policy. Give me some examples of that, how you would think you'd be like.
Well, some issues that I'm really concerned about is I'm really concerned about the big Second Amendment issues. I think the Second Amendment is so important. I'm an avid gun owner, and at my gun shop, I've actually purchased so many guns that they put my picture up on the wall.
At Mark's Outdoors.
At Mark's Outdoors in Vestavia. But
I've heard that.
It's so important because the Second Amendment helps secure all of the rest of our liberties in the Bill of Rights. And it's so important that we preserve that and protect that here in America.
That's so important. That's so apropos that you'd be a big gun advocate and Second Amendment person and being conservative. So you buy a lot of guns from them.
Yeah, I do.
From Mark's Outdoors.
Yeah. I hope the ATF's not watching.
Derek, what about you have really, really settled in to, we were talking to Congressman Palmer, who represents the 6th District, which is primarily the suburbs of Jefferson and Shelby counties.
Yes, sir.
And but you have really settled in. You have a law office in Hoover, and you live in Vestavia. But the over-the-mountain Republican clubs, you've gotten so active, and you've gotten involved in campaigns. So when you left, the whole time you were at Cumberland, you were active in the Cumberland Republicans.
Yes, sir. The Cumberland Republicans, and I try to be active in several Republican clubs. I'm currently a member of the Greater Birmingham Young Republicans, and I'm also a member of the Mid-Alabama Republican Club. I'm currently serving as the secretary of the club.
Good. Now, tell me some of the people that you have gotten to know, say, in the Republican Party, that are in office and lobbying. You're real good friends with Hal Bloom, who is a lobbyist here in Montgomery.
And Steve Wyndham, and I'm good friends
Go
with
into
Hal.
go into how you got to be good friends. Why you close friends with Bloom, and every one of your friends are Republican conservatives, but Hal's not really a partisan person. But some of your best friends, like you're good friends with Congressman Palmer, you're good friends with. Talk about different ones. You're friends with Senator Jabbo Wagner.
Yes.
So go into each one of them. Your thoughts on. Let's begin with Steve Wyndham. How y'all got to be friends and why you like him. And
So I actually met Judge Mary Wyndham first while I was still a student.
Both of them have been on this show, by the way.
Yeah. And she was campaigning for re-election for the Court of Criminal Appeals, which she serves on now. And I actually met Judge Wyndham before I met
Steve.
And I always loved both of them. Senator Wagner is.
Let's go back to Wyndham. Wyndham was lieutenant governor, for one term. I guess under when Seaman was a governor, Democrat was governor, and he was a Republican lieutenant governor.
Yeah.
But then, so Mary and Steve. Then talk about Senator Wagner.
So Senator Wagner, I'm very fortunate to have Senator Wagner as my state senator. I live in Vestavia Hills, and so I'm in his Senate district, and very fortunate to have Senator Wagner as my state senator, and very fortunate to have him as a friend. I always like Senator Wagner as well, and his wife Marilyn.
Well, that he has served longer than anybody in the state history in the state legislature.
Yes, sir.
50 years.
Yes, sir.
He's beginning his 51st year.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And great health, too.
Yeah.
Looks well, does well.
And I'm also very fortunate to be in Congressman Gary Palmer's 6th Congressional District as well. His district covers.
He's finishing up 10 years in Congress.
Yes,
his 5th term. Tell me about Congressman Palmer, your perception of him.
I love Congressman Palmer. I think that it's so important to have people in Congress who are policy wonks and people who are really focused on public policy. And it's important to have people who are knowledgeable about specific issues that are important to the nation.
He knows issues, doesn't he?
Absolutely.
People don't realize this. He's on a policy steering committee that has helped Mike Rogers and Robert Adaholt, get their committee chairmanship.
Yeah, and it's such a great asset that we have as a state to have members of the House from Alabama like Congressman Palmer, Congressman Rogers, Congressman Adaholt with such stature, in Congressman Carl, who is on. You're
good friends. Let's talk about Representative Carl. See there, you're good friends with Representative Carl too.
He's a good friend as well. I really like Representative Carl, and I'm also good friends with Representative Adaholt as well.
I really like Representative Adaholt. Carolina, I remember the years past. He got there at such a young age. Mm-hmm. He was 20-something years old, 30, barely. He wasn't even 30, I don't think, when he got elected.
And he's been so effective throughout his career.
He got there at the right age. Mm-hmm. What about legislators besides Jabbo you're close to? You're real close to former Representative Jack Williams.
Yes.
Y'all are best friends, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about Jack, how y'all got to be good friends.
So when I was at a college Republicans dinner my last year at Cumberland, I was actually talking to Steve and Mary Wyndham. We were talking about where I went to college, and I said Michigan. I went to college up in Michigan, and I hear a voice from in the background asking me, "Now, where in Michigan are you from? Or did you live in?" And I told him the name of the town Holland, and he actually knew somebody from Holland, and we stayed in touch ever since. So I've been really good friends with him. I'm also a huge fan of Representatives Susan DuBose and Lee Halsey, both
new freshman Republicans.
New freshman
from
Republicans.
Republican districts. over the mountain, and Lee Halls is from both of them Shelby County.
Both of them are Shelby County, but both of their districts actually come into Jefferson.
Right.
So they're part of the Jefferson County delegation as well.
You know, I respect Susan DuBose for what she did. You know, they were trying to protect an incumbent in that seat, and she lived in Greystone and had worked and really worked hard to get that. She had that race won.
Yeah.
I mean, and then they carved her out, and she still won it.
Well, she worked really hard.
She really did.
And she's a great person, so.
Yeah. So, but you're good friends with Lee Halsey and Susan DuBose.
Yeah.
Who else are some of the over-the-mountain legislators? You probably helped them with their campaigns too, didn't you?
Yeah, I did for many of them. And
you're involved right now. This is an interesting race. You have gotten involved in helping Miss Mooney in the state school board race.
Yes.
Tell us about that, if you would. That's Stephanie Bell's district. Viewers, if you're not familiar, we've had Stephanie Bell on our show over the years from here in Montgomery, and she has represented that area, which goes up into Jefferson County.
Yes,
and gets
sir.
the suburbs of Vestavia and Homewood and Mountain Brook probably in that district. And she's been a stellar school board member. She's not running for re-election. So there are 3 people vying for that seat.
Yes.
And you're for Miss Arnold Mooney's wife. Arnold Mooney's a representative.
Yes, I'm for Mrs. Kelly Mooney. I've been a big fan of both her and Representative Mooney for a long time, and she's going to be great for the job. She was a former 15-year administrator at Briarwood. She's a mom and grandmother, and she's very successful in her own right, very sharp, and just a great person.
They've got several children and grandchildren too that are in the school. They've gone through that school system, I think, up there.
Yeah, in that area, in Shelby County where they live.
What's Miss Mooney's first name?
Miss Kelly.
Kelly
Mooney.
Now you also have to be involved in one of those state Senate races, with Clay Schofield's Senate race up in the Sand Mountain area
Yes,
of
sir.
the state. Talk about that race. That's a very interesting race because I had pegged both those House members, Wes Kitchens and Brock Colvin, as being future political prospective leaders in the state, given the fact both of them are from the Sand Mountain area. But that's going to be an interesting race up there. It'd be interesting to see which one of those prevails.
Well, there's also a third candidate.
Stacey George.
But Wes has been very effective in the House, very effective Republican, and he is a good friend, and I think he'll do really well in the state Senate.
Now, you have become good friends with Representative Andy Witt from Huntsville, too, haven't you?
Yeah, I really like Representative Witt. He's a really good man, both him and Representative Rex Reynolds in North Alabama.
They have become very powerful, too.
Yeah.
Both of them have, and because the power in bygone years, Derek, I don't know if you've been aware of this, but legislatively and probably unfairly has been in South Alabama. Even though the population wasn't in South Alabama, there was more power in the South Alabama legislators stayed longer and built some seniority. But nowadays, Huntsville is the biggest place in the state, fastest growing and most prosperous, which most people are not quite aware of. So therefore, rightfully so, a lot of the leadership is coming from the Tennessee Valley.
Absolutely.
But so you've got to be friends with Nathaniel Ledbetter too, hadn't you, Speaker?
Yes, I love Speaker Ledbetter. He's a great man, and he's doing a great job.
I really like Nathaniel.
Yes.
I used to go up and have breakfast with him about once a month.
Up in DeKalb County?
We'd go up there and have breakfast at some place, I forget the real known place. But you know what I found interesting about it, I love to talk to him about Randy Owen. You know, he and Randy Owen are best friends.
Yes.
Everything I've ever heard about Randy Owen has always been good. The lead singer of the band Alabama. Yeah. The band Alabama. He's just as at home and down home. He likes his cattle. He likes fine cattle, Black Angus, I think. He grows them up there in DeKalb County. But Nathaniel and Randy Owen have grown up together.
Yes.
Randy's never forgotten his roots. He loves DeKalb County, as does Nathaniel. Nathaniel's a good man.
He is. And so is Senator Greg Reed.
Oh, yeah.
who I'm a big fan of as well.
I love
He's doing a
Barry.
great job in the Senate.
Let's talk about some other senators. Have you gotten to be good friends with Dan Roberts?
Yes, I like Mr. Roberts a lot.
He's
He's
real
in the
active.
neighboring district from me.
Right. Now, he's real active in that Briarwood Church.
Yes. So is Congressman Palmer.
Right. Jablo's Church of Christ.
Yes.
Homewood Church of Christ. But let's see now. Who else some of the Jefferson County legislators you like a lot that you helped in the campaigns? You help in West Kitchens up in that Sand Mountain area, and you help in Miss Mooney in the Jefferson County school board race. Who we missing that you've helped half the members of the legislature? Everywhere I go somewhere,
no.
if I go to some Republican meeting, they all want to come speak to Derek.
No. Well, I just think it's.
You've always been so nice to speak to me too.
Thank
over
you.
the years.
Well, I've always enjoyed getting to visit with you, and I really appreciate your friendship. But I think it's so important to have strong, effective conservatives in elected office because it really affects so many lives around the state and amongst the people. And I think that oftentimes we take everything for granted, our way of life in America, but we really do live in the greatest nation in the history of the world. And as Alabamians, we live in the greatest state in the United States. You can't beat the people, the good people that we live with here in Alabama, the quality of life. You can't beat the barbecue.
You like barbecue?
I do. Sweet tea. Now, I got to tell you, Steve, I've gotten so addicted to sweet tea since I moved down here. When I travel outside of the South, I don't even know what to do with myself. And, there's no greater disappointment than when you order a cup of tea and you take a sip of it and it's unsweet.
Do you like fried chicken too?
I love them all.
Where's your favorite eating places in Birmingham?
So my favorite barbecue place is Saw's Homewood.
Mm-hmm. I've heard people talk about that.
But there's so many different Saws. You got Saw's Juke Joint, you have Saw's in Hoover, and really interestingly, all of the menus are different. I don't
in the barbecue places?
Yeah, there's not a single one that has the exact same menu. But my favorite is Saw's in Homewood.
Now you like the fish market too, don't you?
Yeah, I like the fish market, the one on South Side.
Okay. Now where on South Side is that located close to?
It's kind of by the campus of UAB.
Let me ask you this question, change from that. Where does someone that's conservative like you in your age group, where do you get your news from? Where do you gather your news?
Well, I try to look at news from several different sources. I like reading Breitbart, Fox News. I like reading a lot of the local news here in Alabama as well. Yellowhammer News is one of my favorite news sites. Also, I like to read different stuff on Twitter. You get a lot of people who are breaking news on Twitter nowadays, and you can't believe everything that you see on Twitter. You have to take everything with a grain of salt, but there is some good content on there.
Derek, in our last couple of minutes, I forgot about this candidate. You've always helped Trump too.
Yeah.
You've been a big Trump advocate. You actually have given his campaigns and have worked for him. You've been asked to go to Mar-a-Lago, hadn't you?
Yes.
How'd you get involved with Trump? Tell me about the president. Tell me how you got involved with Trump, how you going to be involved this presidential year, and how do you foresee the race?
So I've always been for President Trump. He was the very first vote that I ever cast was in the 2016 the Republican primary in 2016. I was 19 years old, so that was the first presidential election that I could vote in, and I voted for President Trump. Always been a fan. He did a phenomenal job while he was in office. especially with all of the conservative judicial appointments that he was able to make, has really made a difference. And I have always been for President Trump, and I think that he's going to be able to get back into the White House come 2025.
You'll have him again, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Now they're going to have you back down to Mar-a-Lago anytime soon?
I hope so. It was a lot of fun.
Now, when you go down there, you go with other Alabamians most of the time?
Yeah, I go down there. There's usually a few other Alabamians that are down there. The last time that I went with former Secretary of State John Merrill from Alabama.
Now, Merrill and Trump are friends, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Uh-huh.
They're good friends. President Trump will call Merrill periodically. We'll call John periodically.
You like Merrill? We forgot to talk about him.
Yeah.
You like John Merrill?
Good friend. I love former state auditor Jim Ziegler.
That's right. Then you were good friends with Ziegler.
He's one of my closest friends.
Yeah, tell me about Ziegler. How y'all got to be friends?
So I actually saw Auditor Ziegler when I was still in college. On the news on CNN. It was during the whole Bentley situation, and I saw him on the news, and so I saw Auditor Ziegler at a Republican function, and I went up to him and I said, "Excuse me, sir, are you Jim Ziegler?" And he looked at me and he said, "Well, yes, I am." And I saw you on the news, and he said, "Oh no, what did I do now?" And we've stayed in touch ever since, and he's one of my closest friends.
I like Jim Ziegler. He's been on this show too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Derek, I hate to tell you, our time's up.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciated it and enjoyed getting to visit with you, as always.
We'll do it again too. Folks, our guest tonight has been conservative lawyer Derek Chen, who is a young politico in the state of Alabama. He understands Alabama politics better than most people who are born and raised here. He's an Alabamian by choice. We thank you viewers for watching. Hope you tune in next week for Alabama Politics. Thank you.